details of this. It is nothing but the tax CGST or the SGST which you have paid on the purchase of raw materials or on taking the receipt of the input services which are necessary in the process of manufacture or in rendering output services. See, you are running a educational institution, and in that educational institution, canteen is a compulsory thing because the students during the lunch hours or else during the breaks, pre-meal break or whatever the things, need some canteen services, supply of food items in the premises of the school or college. So you are providing canteen services. Now the canteen services is an input service for you in discharging your educational services, right? There you are running a hospital, and in hospital, for providing medical treatment, you have appointed a consultant, and consultant is giving you services, not directly to a patient. In that case, see, direct visits, OP visits, and all are output services for the hospital. But for for taking a second opinion, the hospital authorities has consulted another doctor who is not an employee of the hospital, but a third party. Here, taking the consultancy from that particular doctor is must ensured to perform an operation by one of the employees of the hospital, by one of the doctors of the hospital. Now, taking this consultancy from another medical superintendent or medical surgeon will be an input service for the hospital. Goods we can explain simply. That's why I started with services. In what is input service? For goods, you need some raw material to produce an output. Raw material A, raw material B are required to produce an output C. Now, for procuring raw material A or raw material B, you have paid along in the price, in the MRP of the raw material, you have paid some of the portion as GST. Suppose the price of the raw material is 100, and out of this 100 rupees, 10 rupees is your GST. GST on raw material A. Now, whatever portion you have paid as GST on the raw materials can be deducted from your output GST liability. Okay, so you have purchased raw material A, 1 unit costs you 100 rupees, and from this 1 unit of raw material, you have made 5 units of output C. I'll give an example on whiteboard. Input tax credit. Okay, now raw material A, 1 unit can be utilized and can be converted into output of 5 units. 1 unit of raw material MRP is 100 rupees, and 5 units of raw output MRP is rupees 30 per unit. Now, GST included here is 100 rupees. In this 100 rupees is 10 rupees. And here applicable rate of GST is 10%. Okay, 10% then of selling price. Now, at the time of purchase of raw material, the GST paid amount. GST paid is equal to 10 rupees, right? This 10 rupees immediately after making the payment will be set to be input tax credit available. Okay, which we technically called ITC availed. Means the tax which is paid on the raw materials or else paid on the inputs or input services which is available to take credit, which is available. You have not taken this credit or we have not utilized this credit. That is called input tax credit availed. Okay, this is the technical word. Now, you have purchased the raw material and you have processed it and you have prepared the output. Now, a sale order came from a customer and you decided to supply these 5 units to the customer. At the time of making sale of 5 output units, GST payable. See, earlier it is GST paid on raw materials. Now GST payable will be how much? 30 rupees into 5 units into 10%, right? So 150 into 10%, which is 15 rupees is the GST liability, GST payable, which is nothing but GST liability on outputs or output services. Right? Now, there is another term called utilization of input credit. Input tax credit, which is nothing but your output liability minus your input tax already paid, input tax credit available. So this deduction of input tax credit from the output tax liability is called utilization of input tax credit. The process of deduction, that's it. That name is given as utilization of input tax credit. Okay. So how much you have deducted from the available amount? Here you have available amount, your available ITC is 10 rupees only, and the entire 10 rupees you have deducted. So whatever credit you have availed has been fully utilized. Clear? Deduction of input tax credit availed from output GST liability is called utilization of the input tax credit. Okay. Tabular form of data which will be maintained by the finance department as far as the credit availed and credit utilized of input tax credit availed and input tax credit utilized will be in this form. They will technically call it as ledger, but it is simply a data which is maintained in tabular form. Okay. See, there will be two tables. One is your ITC table, that is input tax credit available. Another one is electronic credit ledger. Electronic credit ledger, which is nothing but the input tax credit ledger. Every registered person shall, subject to the conditions and restrictions as may be prescribed, and in the specify and the manner specified in section 49, be entitled to take input tax charged on any supply of goods or services or both to him, which are used or intended to be used in the course or furtherance of his business, and the said amount shall be credited to the electronic credit ledger of such person. So electronic credit ledger is nothing but your input tax credit available data. Okay. Now, um, this one accounting treatment you must know before understanding how this electronic credit ledger works. At the time of sale, you will create a GST liability, and you will create whatever the GST payable amount as expense. GST on sales to GST payable account. Okay. Or else you will create this will you will create at the time of sale of the transaction. Create what is GST on sales as an expense and GST payable as your liability. So this is your expense and this is your liability. Right? Now, once you create liability, you need to make liability means you are owing money. Now, GST payable means you are owing to GST authorities the tax portion of the sale. Okay, GST portion of the sale. Now, GST on sales, it's an expense. Okay, it's not GST sales, it is GST on sales. Now, at the time of purchase of raw materials, okay, what you might have done, you have procured the raw materials. So, raw materials account, because it is an stock or else an asset, debit. Then ITC, input tax credit, or else I can write GST on raw materials. Okay, which is unutilized credit, which is also an expense for you. Debit to bank account. Okay, here the GST which you have already paid. Okay, you have already paid this GST amount, GST on raw materials, right? Instead of GST on raw materials, I can otherwise write it as input tax credit available, or else unutilized ITC. Okay, correct. Now here what happened? You need to pay some amount, right? Suppose say this is 100, it is 10, 90 and 10, and here it is 100. Now GST on sales it is 150. Now not 150, 15, and here also it is 15. At the time of utilization of credit, it will be GST payable account to unutilized input tax credit 15 rupees. No? Unutilized input tax credit 10 rupees to bank account, because you are making payment, that's why I'm crediting it 5 rupees. Okay, so this is how entire thing will appear. Now electronic credit ledger ECL will have two columns. So whenever you are paying some amount on purchase of the raw materials, the GST on purchases will be added on the credit side of the, and whenever you are making sales, you need to set off that amount, right? This is credit and this is debit. So GST on purchases, whatever amount you have paid, will be added to on the debit side of the electronic credit ledger, electronic credit ledger, and GST on sales to the extent which is utilized and your balance is showing 1000, 3000, 5000. So total balance is 9000 is showing, and you have utilized only 8000. So your balance in ECL is still 1000. This is how the electronic credit ledger will appear. Whatever amounts you are paying on the purchase of raw materials or purchase of inputs will be added on the debit side of the ECL, and whatever sales you are making for which you have utilized the input tax credit will be shown on the credit side of the ECL. Okay. Hmm. Great. Now, suppose you may get a doubt. If the credit amounts are greater than debit amounts, you cannot make maximum balance or a minimum balance 0. No negative balance in ECL. Okay, clear? So whatever, see, you can utilize the credit to the extent of your GST payments on raw materials or inputs. You cannot take here 10,000 and balance here 1,000. You cannot show. You can. Uh, it means you have paid GST on raw materials to the extent of 11,000, and you have utilized GST to the extent of 13,000. Means you have paid 11,000, but you have deducted more, which is violation of law, which will attract penalty. Okay. So please have a look into it. Those definitions. These are repeated definitions only. No new definitions. Now we'll directly come to the provisions of the input tax credit. First provision is section 16. Eligibility and conditions for taking input tax credit. So who is eligible? Every person, registered person is eligible. Registered person subject to such conditions and restrictions as may be provided and in the manner specified in section 49 be entitled to take a credit of input tax charged on any supplier of goods or services or both to him which are used or intended to be used in the course or furtherance of his business, and the said amount shall be credited to the electronic credit ledger of such person. The input tax charged on the raw materials or the input supply of goods or services which are utilized in producing or in supplying taxable outputs, taxable supply of goods or taxable supply of services, then only you can credit the GST paid on the raw materials which are used for the supply, taxable supply. It means Suppose you have paid GST on the purchase of some raw materials and you have produced an output which is exempt from GST. You cannot take input tax credit. See, you have purchased you have purchased raw material A and you produced output B. Output B is exempt from GST. At the time of purchasing the raw material A, you have paid 10 rupees GST. Can you take this GST credit? You can't, because the output is exempted output. If you are producing exempted output, then whatever the GST paid on the raw materials or the inputs or input services cannot be taken as input tax credit. And only registered persons can avail input tax credit. Subsection 2. Notwithstanding anything contained in this section, no registered person shall be entitled to the credit of any input tax in respect of any supply of goods or services or both to him, unless he is in possession of a tax invoice or a debit note issued by a supplier registered under this act or such other tax paying document as may be prescribed. He has received the goods or services. See, here they are telling, yes, you are eligible to take input tax credit on the inputs or input services which are utilized in supply of taxable supply of output or goods or services. When the documents required here are your tax invoice. You should possess the purchase tax invoice pertaining to the purchase of raw materials, tax invoice pertaining to the taking of input services. So you should possess that respective tax invoice raised by the supplier of the goods or services. Now, if this invoice is not and that invoice should be raised by the registered person, by it means the other person who is raising the invoice also should be registered in the GST Act. Suppose you have taken services from a person who is not registered, then you cannot avail GST. No registered person shall be entitled to the credit of any input tax in respect of any supply of goods or services or both to him, unless he is in possession of the tax invoice, he has received the goods or services or both. It means if even though he has not received any invoice, but he has received the goods, he can take the input tax credit, provided the goods are received from another registered supplier. Now, explanation. For the purpose of this clause, it shall be deemed that the registered person has received goods where the goods are delivered by the supplier to a recipient or any other person on the direction of such registered person, whether acting as an agent or otherwise, before or during the movement of the goods, either by way of transfer of documents of title to goods or otherwise. Here they are telling that you have not directly received the goods, but you authorized some other person to receive goods on your behalf, and you directed the supplier to supply the goods to the authorized representative, to your authorized representative. Means you are running a business in Bangalore and you have an outlet in Jabalpur. You ordered some goods from Bhubaneswar and you asked that supplier to directly deliver those goods in the Jabalpur outlet, at the Jabalpur outlet. Here, recipient is the Jabalpur outlet, but he is acting on behalf of Bangalore business. Clear? In this case also, if the Bangalore business want to take the input tax credit, it can take. Clear? But at the same time, Jabalpur business cannot take the input tax credit. Correct. Then subsection 2, third provision. Notwithstanding anything contained in this section, no registered person shall be entitled to the credit of any input tax in respect of any supply of goods or services to him unless subject to the provisions of section 41, the tax charged in respect of such supply has been actually paid to the government, either in cash or through utilization of the input tax credit admissible in respect of the said supply. Means you have received or else you have received an invoice from a supplier stating that you have purchased the raw materials to the extent of 100 rupees and you need to pay raw material cost along with the GST of 12 rupees, total 112 rupees to him. Here the act says that today you have procured the raw material, but you have not paid the amount to the supplier. Tomorrow itself you have started your production process and are able to complete that production process. And day after tomorrow, that is today is 26th, 28th, you made the sale of the output units. Your selling price is 150 rupees and your GST liability is 15 rupees. Are you able to take the credit? No, you cannot because you have not paid the amount to the supplier. Suppose you have made the payment of 12 rupees to the supplier, that is the tax portion, and you made the outstanding balance of 100 rupees as it is. You have not made the payment to the supplier. You have produced the goods and you sold those goods and your GST liability on the outputs is 15 rupees now. Can you take input tax credit? Yes, you can take. Here you have already debited or you have already paid the DST portion of the liability to the supplier. Hence, you can deduct the same from your output tax liability. 2019 purchased material X costing 100 rupees per unit from supplier ABC on credit basis, means you have not paid cash at the time of purchase or from purchase of raw materials. 25/3/2019 production of material Y which is a taxable output completed. For which material X is the input. Now, another point I will add here, GST on material X, rupees 10. 26/3/2019 sold goods to Messrs. PQR for 150 rupees. GST on sale is equal to 150 into 10%, which is 15 rupees, right? In this whole transaction, Mr. X, can he utilize this unvat credit? No, because he has not paid anything on the raw materials. Okay, paid and the government either in cash or through paid to the the government either in cash or through adjustment in the electronic cash credit ledger. Utilization of this and input tax credit admissible in respect of the said supply. He has furnished the return under section 39. It means current month debit or credit pertaining to electronic credit ledger cannot be finalized unless until you file a return, monthly return or else quarterly return. He has furnished the return under section 39. Provided that where the goods against an invoice is received in lots or installments, the goods, the registered person shall be entitled to take credit upon receipt of the last lot or installment. Now, you have ordered XYZ company to supply materials in lots or else in groups, in batches. First batch should reach your office by 25th of March. Second lot should reach by 20th of April. Third lot should reach by 30th of June. Now, here the act says whenever you are receiving the lot, that is not a matter for this by utilizing the input tax credit. Only thing when you are receiving the last lot, that is on 30th June only, you can utilize this input tax credit of the all three lots. Okay, see, shall be entitled to take credit upon receipt of the last lot or last installment. Till that time, you need to wait. Even though you have received the previous lots beforehand, well before. Now, here they are telling that simply receiving the lot is not sufficient. You need to pay the amount and file the return with respect to your inputs. Then only you can avail the SUNVAT credit or utilize the SUNVAT input tax credit available. Clear? Suppose today you have received the raw materials. Immediately you cannot take the input tax credit. It means you need to make the payment and file the return. Then only you can adjust the available credit with respect to the output liability as against the output liability. Provided further that where the recipient fails to pay to the supplier of goods or services or both, other than supplier on supplies on which tax is payable under reverse charge basis, the amount towards the value of the supply along with the tax payable thereon within a period of 180 days from the date of issue of the invoice by the supplier and an amount equal to the input tax credit availed by the recipient shall be added to his output tax liability along with interest thereon in such manner as may be prescribed. Now, you have entered the input tax credit available on your input tax credit ledger at the time of procuring the raw materials, but you have not made the payment to the supplier. Then the GST authority says that even if you have not paid the input tax credit along with the tax invoice amount to your supplier, you can utilize the credit within 180 days. But even after 180 days also, if you are not paying the amount to your suppliers, then whatever the credit you have availed earlier can be reversed back. Right? Now you have procured raw materials worth 100 rupees on which your GST payable amount or GST payable on raw materials is 10 rupees. Today is 26th of March. Now you have not paid the payment. Yes, you procured the materials directly to your factory and you forgot about that supplier. The GST authority says that within 180 days, if you have not made the payment, that is on or before 26th of September, if you have not made the payment to your supplier, then please reverse the credit which you have taken earlier. That is the 10 rupees input tax credit which you have added or shown as available credit, you need to reverse it. Means you need to reduce that available credit. Clear? Provided also that the recipient shall be entitled to avail of the credit of input tax on payment made by him of the amounts towards the value of the supply of goods or services or both, along with tax payable provisions. Recipient shall be entitled to avail of the credit of input tax on payment made by him of the amount towards the value of supply of goods or services or both, along with the tax payable thereon. So when can they avail the credit? Only when you pay the amount to the raw material suppliers. Then only you can avail the credit. Then where the registered person has claimed depreciation on tax component of the cost of the capital goods and plant and machinery under the provisions of the Income Tax Act, the input tax credit on the said tax consumption shall not be allowed. It means, I think we discussed the same in our direct taxes also, if you are able to remember. Suppose you have purchased a machinery costing 100 lakhs and your GST on such machinery is 3 lakhs. Your depreciation amount which you have taken for calculating your annual depreciation is 100 lakhs, which is inclusive of 2 lakhs. 2 lakhs GST paid on the machinery. In this case, you cannot take the input tax credit because you have already included the input tax credit portion in the total depreciable amount of the asset. See, machinery cost 100 lakhs. GST on machinery included in the cost. Two lakhs. Now, there are two cases. First one, depreciable amount to be recognized for tax purpose. 98 lakhs, 100 lakhs. Right? Now, if it is 98 lakhs, means what? 100 minus whatever the GST included on the cost, that is 2 lakhs. Means you have not taken the any input tax credit with respect to this 2 lakhs. Right? So, here ITC credit is available. Here the depreciable amount is 100 lakhs, means entire 2 lakhs also, 2 lakhs benefit also you will show it as an asset. So here no ITC credit is available. Clear? So that is subsection 3. Then subsection 4. A registered person shall not be entitled to take the input tax credit in respect of any service or debit note for supply of goods or services or both after the due date of furnishing the return under section 39 for the month of September following the end of the financial year to which such service or the invoice or the invoice relating to such debit note pertains, or furnishing of the relevant annual returns, whichever is earlier. Now, you have supplied some goods and the goods have been returned by the customer. At the time of making the sale transaction, you might have recognized some GST tax liability, along with a reduction of or else availment of or utilization of the sunvat credit to some extension of the output GST liability. Here it says that sorry, a registered person shall not be entitled to take the input tax credit. Now, since the goods have been reversed back by you to your supplier, whatever the input tax or else ITC credit which you have utilized earlier should be reversed back, because there is no credit at all now. You have last month you have procured raw materials worth 10,000 and you have paid GST of 1,200 on the 10,000 raw materials. This month on March 2nd, you have returned 50% of the raw material to the supplier again. Here it says that to the extent of 50% of that 1,200, you need to reduce your amount available in the electronic credit ledger. Because the electronic credit ledger balance should always show the amount of credit available to the business. If you does not reverse the credit available, it means you are unnecessarily utilizing the sunvat credit for which you are not entitled. Unnecessarily utilizing the input tax credit for which you are not entitled. Okay? Clear? Okay. Next one, chapter 5, input tax credit of the CGST rules. The documentary requirements and conditions for claiming the input tax credit. The input tax credit shall be availed by the registered person, including the input service distributor, on the basis of any of the following documents, namely invoice issued by the supplier of the goods or services or both in accordance with the provisions of 31, invoice issued in accordance with the provisions of clause F of subsection 3 of section 31 subject to the payment of the tax. Debit note issued by the supplier in accordance with the provisions of this act. A bill of entry or a similar document prescribed under the Customs Act 1962 or rules made thereunder for the assessment of integrated tax imports. An input service distributor invoice or input service distributor credit note or any document issued by the input service distributor in accordance with the provisions of the section 1 sub rule 1 of the rule 54. So in any of these methods, the input service distributor can utilize the sunvat credit. These are the documents available. Then who is the input service distributor? You are your head office, you have the business and your head office situated in Bangalore. You have businesses in Mysore, Coorg, or else Halebedu. You are a travel agent, let us assume, and your main office is situated in Bangalore, and you have offices in different sightseeing places of Karnataka, Halebedu, Beluru, Shravanabelagola, then Coorg and Mysore. So for 4-5 offices you have in these different places. Now, what happened? You are taking some services, or else you are procuring buses from a subcontractor, and you are running those buses as a tour operator. When you are collecting, when you are utilizing the buses from which are provided by the subcontractor on the rental of movable properties, you are paying some GST. Renting of movable properties. That GST payable paid by you to the bus providers is an input tax available to you. Now you need to pay output tax liability, right? So Mysore office has utilized 10 buses to to give sightseeing or else to make the passengers view all the good places or no, good places in Mysore, sightseeing places in Mysore, right? And Coorg office has hired only two buses. Only Talakaveri they need to show to the persons who visited Coorg and then came back. So only two buses are sufficient for them, right? But on the two buses they might have paid GST, right? So all this GST input credit will be clubbed and will be finalized by the Bangalore office. Now Bangalore office is an input service distributor. Input services you are distributing, okay? Or else, in other words, Coorg office has a tie-up with a contractor which is giving the buses at a cheaper cost, which were utilized by all other places. Now, Coorg office is an input service distributor. It's not the head office. Because Coorg office is hiring the buses and supplying those buses to all other offices. Right? So here the input service distributor is Coorg office. Now, Coorg office, it is the responsibility of Coorg office to finalize the input tax credit available and input tax credit utilized amounts. Okay. So input tax credit shall be availed by a person, registered person, including the input service distributor, on the basis of any of the following documents. So what are the documents on which basis you can utilize the avail the input tax credit, not utilization, just they are telling availing the input tax credit. On what basis you can consider that this is the input tax available for you. So invoices which are raised under different notes, debit note issued by a supplier. Why debit note supplier will issue? Means they have not raised the invoice. Instead of raising the invoice, they have sent a note stating that your account has been debited in my books of accounts. That is what the debit note is. When a person will debit a particular other person's account, when they are making sale to the party and the other party is owing money to them, I have sent a debit note to you. It means I am writing in my books that Mr. Is owing this much of money to me. Means you are my debtor. Okay. So I is sending debit note. Then based on the debit note also, you can avail this VAT credit. Or else we have supplier has not sent any invoice, not any debit note. But another basis is a bill of entry or any similar document prescribed under the Customs Act or rules made thereunder. Now, you have imported some materials or else your supplier has imported some materials and at the time of importing the materials, the supplier has paid customs duty. When the supplier has paid the customs duty, then only he can clear the goods from the customs godown or customs warehouse. Now, what happened? He has taken the goods and that bill of entry is there. He has no other proofs. So if he produces the bill of entry, based on that bill of entry also, you can take the credit of the GST paid on the inputs. That's what the fourth point is. Input service distributor invoice or input service distributor credit note or any document issued by an input service distributor in accordance with the provisions of Rule 54. Now you are the input service distributor and you have collected all the information relating to the GST paid on the input services by different units. Suppose you have 6 business units. 3 business units are engaged in procuring raw materials and three 3 business units are engaged in selling the outputs, right? Or else 1 business unit is engaged in manufacturing and 2 business units are engaged in selling the outputs. So whatever the input credit you have collected from the first 3 business units will be segregated to the last 2 business units only. For the unit which is making the manufacturing process will not get any input tax credit. Okay, clear? Because manufacturing is not a there is no output generated, or there is no GST liability with respect to manufacturing unit. Where there is a sale, then only you can make the GST payment. Now subsection 2, sub-rule 2. Input tax credit availed by a registered person only if all the applicable particulars are as specified in the provisions of the chapter 6 are contained in the said document, and the relevant information as contained in the said document is furnished in form GSTR 23 by such person. Means they need to submit form GSTR 23. Then only they can avail the input tax credit. So these are the statutory forms you need to fill and you need to submit. Then only the input tax credit can be availed by you. That's what here this sub-rule 2 says. Provided that if the said document does not contain all the specified particulars but contains the details of the amount of tax charged, description of goods or services, total value of the supply of goods or services or both, GSTN of a supplier and recipient, place of supply in case of interstate supply, input tax credit liability or input tax credit may be availed by such registered person. Means even if you don't have the all information as required by GSTR 23, if you have these 5 basic information, that is what amount of tax it is charged on the raw materials, what are the raw materials or services you have procured, total value of the supply of goods of services, and GSTN of the supplier or recipient, place of supply in case of the interstate. So if these 6 documents or also 6 information is available, then they can avail the input tax credit. They need not wait to file the GSTR 23. Then no input tax credit shall be availed by a registered person in respect of any tax that has been paid in pursuance of any order where any demand has been confirmed on account of any fraud, willful misstatement or suppression of facts. Means any fraudulent activities you are doing, then and for that fraudulent activities, for performing such fraudulent activities, you need some raw materials, then your input tax credit you cannot take. Okay. Chloroform, best example. The chloroform can be used for clinical purposes, but you are using it for any other criminal purpose, for any criminal activities, for performing any criminal activities. You cannot take the input tax credit. Not even input tax credit, you need to pay penalties and you will be sentenced to imprisonment. Reversal of input tax credit in case of non-payment of consideration. So when adding to your available credit limit is one thing, but it is not sufficient to utilize that credit. Or even if you have utilized that credit, you need to reverse back that credit, or else you need to pay the amount. When you have not paid the amount to your raw material supplier or to the input service distributor. A registered person who has availed of the input tax credit on any inward supply of goods or services or both, but fails to pay to the supplier thereof the value of such supply along with the tax payable thereon within such time limit specified in the second provision to subsection 2 of section 16, shall furnish the details of such supply, amount of the value not paid, and the amount of the input tax credit availed of proportionate to such amount not paid to the supplier inform GSTR2 for the month immediately following the period of 182 days, 180 days from the date of the issuance of the invoice. Suppose I have raised the invoice, I am the raw material supplier and I have raised the invoice to the extent of 10,000. Now, after verification and physical checking and all, you decided that 10,000 is not the correct amount, 8,000 is the correct amount. But at the time of taking the invoice, you might have utilized or you might have availed the credit to the extent of that 10,000. So 10,000 is the supplier tax invoice price, on which 1,000 is the GST amount. So 1,000 you might have availed this unvat credit. Today I have raised the invoice and 3 months later you found that 10,000 is not the correct amount, 8,000 is the correct amount. Now, to the extent of that 2,000, your tax component will also reduce. Right? Now, what this statutory authority says, you no doubt there will be some adjustments always whenever the one party raises the invoice, and if it is not acceptable by the other party, then they can have the right to make adjustments. Now, whenever you are making such adjustments, you make that adjustments within 180 days. And reverse the whatever excess credit you have utilized, or else excess credit whatever you have availed. Inform GSTR2. Clear? Provided that the value of the supplies made without consideration as specified in Schedule 1 to the said Act shall be deemed to have been paid for the purpose of the second provision to subsection 2 of the section 60. Means which are made free of cost, like your samples. Advertising purpose, you have distributed some free samples. So for them, you cannot take any input tax credit. Provided further that the value of the supplies on account of any amount added in accordance with the provisions of clause B of subsection 2 of section 15 shall be deemed to have been paid for the purpose of second provision to subsection 2 of section 16. Means any additions which you have made, like late fee penalties, I think section 15 means your value of supply. 15 is value of supply. So in section 15, subsection 2 of clause B, subsection 2. So any amount that the supplier is liable to pay in relation to supply, but which has been incurred by the recipient, means you have made a diverted payment. The discharge of obligation, supplier's obligation by the customer. That is what subsection section 15 subsection 2 clause B. Now in this case, how you can make the GST, avail the GST. The day immediately following the day on which you have discharged such third party obligation of the supplier, then you can entitle to take the credit, or else then you can that will be treated as the payment of the consideration for availing the input tax credit. Then subsection 2 of section 16, supply of services. The amount of the input tax credit referred to in subrule 1 shall be added to the output tax liability of the registered person for the month in which the details are furnished. Means if you have not paid the amount, then the same will be added to your output tax liability. Now, you have procured raw materials worth 10,000 today, and you have added 1,000 amount that is pertaining to the raw material GST to your input tax ledger. And you have utilized that amount also tomorrow on 27th or 28th of March. But the thing is, On 30th of April, you came to know that whatever the invoice raised by the supplier is not consistent. Actual amount is only 8,000. So what happened? Your input tax credit has come down. Earlier it is 1,000. Now it is 80% of the invoice. Now 80% of invoice is the new invoice amount. So 800 will be your GST, input GST, right? So your input GST also has come down. So the difference amount of 1,000 minus 800, that is 200, will be added as output tax liability now. Because by the time you came to know that this is the correct GST on the imports, you might have utilized that credit also. So simply you just add this additional amount to your output tax credit and pay the liability. Okay. Now, the amount of the input tax credit referred to in subsection 1 shall be added. Okay, that is over. Rule 3, sub-rule 3. Registered person shall be liable to pay interest at the rate notified under section 50, subsection 1 for the period starting from the day of availing credit on such supplies till the date when the amount added to the output tax liability. Means raw materials purchased 10,000 on 22nd of March 2019. This is my invoice amount. Then 27th of March 2018, this invoice amount contains 9,000 cost of raw materials, 1,000 is the GST. Okay. Now on 27th March 2019, you have utilized the raw material input credit. Okay, 1,000. On 30th April 2019, found that invoice was not correctly raised. Invoice amount raised by the supplier rectified. Okay, to 8,000. 5th May 2019, reversed the excess credit of GST on raw materials taken earlier. Okay, that is 1,000 minus 800. This 200 you have reversed on 5th. Okay, now interest for wrong utilization of GST. Is equal to 1,000 minus 800, which is the reversed portion, into some percentage, y percentage, for how many days? Starting from 22nd, because this is the day when you started availing the credit. And to this day, 5th March, how many days are there? This is 8 days plus April 30 days plus May 5 days divided by 365. This is how the interest calculation you need to do. Or else this one reverse the excess credit na, this will be, it is nothing but adding the excess credit taken to your output tax liability. Reversing means adding to the output tax liability. Okay. Availing the credit on such supply till the date when the amount added to the output tax liability till that date. So from 22nd of March to 5th of April, 5th of May. You need to add this period and you need to count this period and pay the interest also for this period. Interest rates, it will be normally common 12% or 18% like that. So you need to remember those rates. Only one rate you need to remember. That's it. This is not like tax rates on goods, GST rates on goods. No. Time limit specified in subsection 4 of section 16 shall not apply to the claim for re-availing any credit. In accordance with the provisions of this act or the provisions of this chapter that had been reversed earlier. So suppose you have reversed the credit, it means you have added it to the output tax liability. But after that you found that whatever I have added back earlier is not correct, original amount is only correct. Then you can, at any time you can take back that credit. Now, what are the conditions? See, whatever we have read the section here, point wise they have given. What are the minimum requirements for availing the input tax credit? Amount of tax charge, description of the goods and services, total value of the supply of goods or services, GSTN of supplier and recipient, place of the supply in case of the interstate supply. Receipt of goods or services, bill to ship to model also included. Under this model, the goods are delivered to a third party. That's what. On the directions, on your directions, the raw material supplier has made the supply to a third party. And you are making the payment. In that case, also you can avail the input tax credit. That is what bill to ship to model. So third party on the direction of the customer, registered person who purchases the goods from the vendor, and that is the customer who purchases such goods does not receive such said goods. However, section 16 to be deems that the registered person means that ultimate customer has he deemed to have received the goods and he can avail the input tax credit. So example we will directly go to. A is a trader who places an order on B for a consignment of soda ash. A receives a buying order from C for the same quantity of soda ash. A instructs B to deliver the goods to C, and in turn he raises an invoice on C. Though the goods are not physically received at the A's premises, here A can avail the input tax credit. C. A has ordered B to supply soda ash. At the same time, A has received another order from C to distribute soda ash at the same quantity. Now, what A has done, instead of receiving the soda ash which he has ordered from B, he requested B to directly supply those soda ash quantities to C. Here, the physical delivery has not taken place at the premises of the A. But still, A can avail the SUNVAT credit or the input tax credit on the soda ash purchase. tax leviable on supply actually paid to government. Goods received in lots, ITC available only in respect of last lot. This we already discussed. Example, XYZ enters into a contract with ABC for supply of 10 metric ton of chemicals for 1,18,000 inclusive of GST of 18,000 in August. The chemical is to be delivered in lots over a period of 3 months. ABC raises the invoice for the entire amount in August, but supply is completed in November. Though XYZ paid the full amount as early as August, it can take the ITC only in November because third lot you will receive in November, or else last lot you will receive in November month. They need to wait till November. Clear? Payment for invoices to be made within 180 days. A registered person must pay to the supplier the value of goods and services along with the tax within 180 days from the date of issue of the invoice. In the event of failure to do so, the corresponding credit availed by the registered person would be added to his output tax liability. Means if you fail to pay the amount to your supplier, or else if you disobey the invoice raised by the supplier, then within say 180 days, whatever the input tax credit you have taken earlier will be added to your output tax liability. So they have given some exceptions to this rule. This condition of payment of value of supply plus tax within 180 days does not apply to following situations. Supplies on which tax is payable under reverse charge, deemed supplies without considerations. Additions made to the value of the supply on account of supplier's liability in relation to such supplies being incurred by the recipient of the supply. It's nothing but the supplier's liability borne by the recipient or discharged by the recipient. In those cases also, this payment condition will not apply. So these are the exception to 180 days rule. 180 days rule is if you have not paid the amount to the supplier, whatever the input tax credit availed by you earlier will be added to your output tax liability. What are the exceptions to this rule? Supplies under reverse charge, then deemed supplies without consideration, then where the consideration is discharged by way of is paid by way of discharge of supplier's liability by the recipient. Means you are not paying directly to the supplier, but you are discharging supplier's liability. It means a deemed consideration. So without paying the consideration to the supplier also, you can take the input tax credit in these cases. Now, due to a quality dispute, PZB Limited withheld the payment on a machine supplied by a vendor till it could be rectified. Over 180 days went in by this dispute. The credit taken by PZP on the invoice got added to the output tax liability of PZP, and thus it had to pay back the credit only after the vendor rectified the machine and PZP released the payment. Could PZP take the credit again? See here you have procured a machinery and it has got some manufacturing defect, and this defect was not accepted by the supplier. That is the scenario here. So you completely withheld the payment. But the tax authority says that is the dispute with respect to you two people. Don't involve me. You pay tax first. If you settle those disputes, I will give you credit. Input tax. That's what. The next one is tax time limit for availing the ITC. Due date of filing of returns for the month of September succeeding the financial year or the date of filing the annual returns, whichever is earlier. Input tax invoices, input tax credit, ITC on invoices pertaining to a financial year or debit notes relating to invoices pertaining to a financial year can be availed anytime till the due date of filing of the return for the month of September of the succeeding financial year. Now, you have procured the material today, but you have not availed the input tax credit. You forgot actually. You missed it somehow and you have not availed the input tax credit. Now, the last date for filing the annual return for the month of September of the next year. This financial year will end on 31st March 2019. Then the coming September will be 30th September 2019. And this September month, September 19 return, when it will be filed, maybe 10th of October or 15th of October or 20th of October. Till that time, you can avail this NVAT credit. Even in this time also, if you forget, then you cannot save your input tax credit. That's what the time ceiling they have made now. Earlier, this was not the case. Now, they made that this is the last date for availing the input tax credit. Hercules Machinery delivered a machine to in January 2018 under the invoice number 49 dated 28th January 2018 for 4,15,000 plus GST and undertook trial runs and calibration of the machine as per the undertook the trial runs and calibration of the machine as per the requirements of the XYZ. The amount chargeable for the post-delivery activities was covered in a debit note raised in April 2018 for 50,000 plus GST. XYZ did not file its annual returns till October 2018. Though the debit note was received in the next financial year, it relates to an invoice received in the financial year ending 31st March 2018. Therefore, the time limit for taking input tax credit on 50,000 as well as 4,50,000 is 20th October 2018. Earlier of the date of filing the annual return or the return for the month of September 2018. Here it says that you have not taken the input tax credit on that 4,50,000, which is the original invoice. And any adjustment relating to the original invoice will also be considered as the invoice raised in the previous year. That is one crucial point you can learn from this. Second thing is, when you have filed your annual return and when you have filed your return for the month of September of the subsequent financial year, these two dates you need to compare. Earlier of these 2 days will be the due date for availing the input tax credit on that 4,15,000 and that 50,000. Clear? Date of filing the annual return is one date. Date of filing monthly return for the month of September of the next financial year. That is another date. These two dates you need to compare. Suppose first one is date of filing annual return. Second thing is date of filing due date, not date, due date. Here only is actual date. Here due date of filing monthly returns. For September of next financial year. Okay, whichever is earlier of, right? Earlier of date of filing the annual return or the due date of monthly returns will be the last date for availing the input tax credit. Clear? Suppose the annual return was filed on 30th April 2018 and this is 30th October 2018. So when can you avail? What is the last date? This is the last date for availing the input tax credit. Yes. Suppose the date of filing the return is 30th September, not 30th September, say 30th November. Annual return you filed on 30th November. Which is the last date? 31st October is the last date, or 20th October is the last. Okay? Whichever is earlier will come. So in no case it should not exceed 20th October. Ideally they made in that way. Because even after 20th October, if you have filed your annual return, there is no use. Maximum you can avail before 20th October. Clear? The filing of annual returns is within your hands. Whenever you require, you can file that return. They have the liberty. You have that liberty for a flexible period of time. Annual return will have a lengthy time period for making the return to be filed. But monthly returns, strict time periods. Before at least before the completion of the next month, you need to file the previous month return. Right? The next one is apportionment of credit, especially for your capital goods, fixed assets when you are procuring. They will apportion the credit. Means they will not allow you to take the entire credit on the input capital goods in one go. Based on the useful life of the asset, they will allow you the input tax credit.